There is a reason money moves fast for some people and crawls for you, and it has nothing to do with how hard you work. Not your job, not your savings, not your side hustle, or the hours you grind. The real reason is almost insultingly simple, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The people who manifest money fast learn something first. The people who manifest slowly or never are still trying to earn it before they understand it. That is the whole gap. Learn, then earn. Almost everyone has that order backwards, and the backwards order is exactly why they stay stuck. Watch what happens in your mind right now. I say the word money, and something tightens. Maybe it is faint, a small flinch, a shadow of worry, a quiet voice that says, "Not for me, not this month, not without a fight." That flinch is what keeps you poor, not the economy, not your background, not your luck. That tiny involuntary contraction that fires the instant money enters your awareness. Rich people do not have it. They were not born without it either. At some point they replaced it. They overwrote it, learned the mechanism, and let the mechanism do the earning. Neville Goddard spent his whole life pointing at one thing, and the world kept staring at his finger instead of where he pointed. Assumption hardens into fact, he said. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the entire secret. People nodded along, then went right back to hustling, grinding, affirming, taping pictures to boards, and wondering why nothing moved. They heard the words. They never learned the law. And you cannot earn from a law you have not learned. You can only struggle against it. So here is the thing to understand first. Money is not a resource you pile up. It is a reflection, an echo. The physical world reporting back to you what you have already assumed about yourself on the inside. Assume lack, and the world hands you lack, on schedule, reliably, forever. Assume wealth, quietly and completely, and the world starts rearranging itself to match. Not because the universe is soft New Age magic, because your nervous system is a broadcasting station and reality is downstream of the signal. This is not a pretty metaphor you hang on your life. It is the machinery you live inside, whether you believe it or not. Now here is why speed actually matters, and why fast is easier than slow. When you try to manifest money slowly, carefully, hedging, keeping one foot in your old fear just in case, you broadcast two signals at once. You say, "I am wealthy," and underneath it, you say, "Please let this work." That second signal, the please, the hope, the wanting, is a confession. It confesses you do not have it yet. The universe never responds to your words. It responds to your state. A state of wanting only ever produces more wanting. That is the trap almost everyone is caught in. They want money so badly that they broadcast its absence at full volume all day, every day, then wonder why more absence keeps showing up. Fast money comes from somewhere else entirely. It comes from an assumption so complete that the wanting stops. You do not want what you already have. Read that twice. You do not want what you already assume is yours. A millionaire does not want $1,000. It is beneath his attention. He assumes it. It is handled in his mind long before it lands in his account. That casual certainty, that boredom around numbers that would make you panic, is not some personality he was born with. It is a learned inner posture. You can learn it too. That is the whole promise. That is what learn to earn means. Understand what your brain is doing while you fight this. Your brain is a prediction machine, and its one job is to keep you alive by expecting whatever has always happened. If you have always been broke, your brain files broke as safe as home as known. Wealth registers as danger, unfamiliar, a threat to the identity it has spent years defending. So when a real chance for money shows up, your own nervous system quietly sabotages it. You procrastinate, you get scared. You talk yourself out of it and call it being realistic. It is not realism. It is your brain guarding a poverty it mistook for safety. And you will keep obeying it until you decide to override it on purpose. Here is the part nobody tells you. Manifestation is not addition. You are not stacking wealth on top of a poor identity. It is replacement. You are not decorating the broke person with affirmations. You are starving the broke person out of the seat and letting a wealthy one sit down. The broke identity has to lose its grip, and it will fight you because identities fight to survive the way any living thing does. Every time you assume wealth, the old self screams that it is a lie, that you cannot afford it, that you are being delusional. That scream is not the truth. That scream is the old self losing its hold. Learn to welcome it. It means the work is landing. So here is the actual mechanism, the thing to learn before you can earn. 3 parts, and each one is a place where almost everyone fails. First, the assumption itself, not a hope, not a wish, an assumption. You adopt the inner conviction that the money is already yours, already done, already handled, as calmly as you assume your own name. Most people cannot hold it because they keep checking. They assume wealth for 10 minutes, then open the banking app to see if it worked. That check is a reassumption of lack, and every check restarts the clock. The people who move fast do not check. They know, and knowing does not need evidence, which is exactly why it produces evidence. Second, the feeling. Neville was relentless about this one. It is never the words you repeat. It is the feeling underneath them. You generate the emotional state of already having the money before $1 of it arrives. The relief, the ease, the quiet way your shoulders drop when a problem is finally solved. You feel that now, tonight, in bed, before anything outside has changed. Because the outer world is the echo, and an echo cannot come before the sound. You make the sound with your feeling. The world returns it as your circumstance. People fail here because they wait to feel wealthy until they see wealth. That is backwards. You feel first, always first. The feeling is the cause. The money is the effect. Third, persistence in the unseen. This is where slow people quit. They assume, they feel it once or twice, and when the world has not changed by Friday, they decide it does not work and crawl back to hustling. But there is always a gap between the inner assumption and the outer proof. Neville called it the interval. Inside the interval, nothing seems to be happening. Everything looks the same. Your job is to stay faithful to the assumption when there is zero evidence for it. That faithfulness in the dark is the whole test. Hold the assumption through the empty interval and the money comes fast. Abandon it and you stay poor and call the law a scam. Same law, different persistence. Notice that none of this is about doing. I have not told you to work harder, network more, learn a skill, or start a business. Those may come, but they come as effects, as inspired action pouring out of a changed state, never as the cause. This is the inversion the whole world misses. They think you earn money by acting, and the acting is powered by struggle. The truth is, you assume money by being, and the action that follows is light because it flows from certainty instead of fear. Action from lack is exhausting and rarely works. Action from assumption is easy and almost always works because you have already become the person for whom that money is normal. If this is landing, if you can feel something rearranging as I talk, do one thing before we go on. I can give you the mechanism here, but the guided version, the one that walks you through installing it night by night, so you actually do it instead of only understanding it, is the resource I left in the pinned comment. If you want to be led through it, and not just told the concept, go read it, then come back. Because the second half of this is where I show you exactly how to press it into a brain that has fought you your whole life. Now let me take apart the biggest lie you were ever told about money, because until it loses its grip, you cannot move fast. The lie is that money is earned through effort proportional to reward. Work twice as hard, make twice as much. It sounds fair, it sounds moral. It is completely false, and a single look at the world proves it. The hardest working people you know are often the poorest. The person cleaning offices at midnight, working 2 jobs exhausted to the bone, is not lazy. They work harder than most millionaires ever will, and they stay broke. Meanwhile, someone assumes an idea, holds a state of certainty, and money flows to them in amounts that make no sense against the hours they put in. Effort is not the currency. Assumption is. Effort is just what poor people trade, because nobody ever taught them the real exchange rate. You might feel some resistance to that. Good. That resistance is your old identity defending itself. It wants effort to be the answer, because effort is familiar and assumption feels like cheating. But ask yourself, who told you money must be suffered for? Trace it back. It was people who were broke themselves or barely holding on, passing down the only story they knew. You inherited a poverty script and mistook it for wisdom. Parents, teachers, the whole world around you broadcasting the same frequency of struggle, and you soaked it up before you were old enough to question it. You were programmed. The only question is whether you stay programmed or learn to write new code. Here is how the reprogramming actually happens mechanically. Every night, in the drowsy state right before sleep, your conscious mind loosens its grip and the subconscious turns suggestible. This is not mysticism. It is a real shift in brain state, the drop from waking rhythms into the slower drifting rhythms at the edge of sleep. In that window, whatever you assume with feeling slips past your critical guard and presses into the deeper mind. Neville called it the state akin to sleep. Enter it every night, he said. Assume the wish fulfilled. Feel it as real. Fall asleep inside that feeling. Over nights, not years, the subconscious accepts the new assumption as truth and starts producing a matching outer world. This is the single most powerful tool you own, and most people waste it every night replaying their worries. Think about what you actually do at night. You lie down and your mind reviews the day, rehearses the fears, runs the math on the bills, imagines the worst. You are pressing lack into your subconscious every single night, expertly, with full emotional force. Then you wake up and wonder why your life keeps handing you more of the same. You are already a master manifester. You have just been manifesting your fears with total commitment. The skill is there. You only have to aim it at what you want instead of what you dread. That redirection from fear rehearsal to wealth assumption is the fastest lever you can pull, and it costs nothing but attention. So tonight, and every night after, do this. Lie down and refuse to review the day. Build a single scene instead. A short, specific, emotionally charged moment that could only be true if the money had already arrived. Maybe you're checking your account and seeing the number, feeling the calm spread through you. Maybe you are telling someone the news. Maybe it is the physical sensation of clearing the debt and feeling your chest unclench. Pick one. Make it vivid. Feel it as if it is happening right now. Then run it gently on a loop as you drift off. Do not strain, because strain is wanting. Just rest inside the scene as a soft assumed fact until sleep takes you. That is the installation. That is you learning the law with your whole nervous system instead of only your thoughts. Now the fear that is probably rising as I say all this, the fear that it will not work for you specifically, that everyone else can pull it off but your case is different, your debt too deep, your situation too far gone. That fear is the most predictable thing in the world, and it is the old identity making its final argument. Here is what dissolves it. The law does not know the size of your problem. Assumption does not scale with difficulty. It is exactly as easy to assume a large sum as a small one, because assumption happens in the imagination, where there are no price tags. Large sums only feel harder because your old self finds them less believable. But believability is not a property of the money. It is a property of your current identity. Change the identity and the impossible starts to look obvious. This is why I keep saying learn to earn instead of work to earn. The learning is the identity work. You are not memorizing facts about finance. You are learning to occupy a new self so completely that the old self, with all its limits, stops running the show. And the moment that new self holds steady, money is not a struggle to acquire. It is a natural expression of who you now are. Wealthy people are not people who got money. They are people who became the kind of person money flows toward, and the money followed the identity. Reverse that at your own risk. Chase the money and it runs. Become the person and it arrives, often faster than you would believe. There is a specific inner discipline that separates the fast from the slow. Living in the end. Most people live in the middle, in the process, in the trying. Always on the way to wealth, always working toward it, always almost there. And because their state is always on the way, their results stay on the way too, forever arriving and never arrived. Living in the end means you move to the finish line in your mind and stay there. You do not think about how the money will come. You do not plot the path. You occupy the completed result and let the how take care of itself. The how is not your job. The how belongs to a reality with infinitely more resources than your anxious planning mind. Your only job is to hold the end. This terrifies the logical mind because the logical mind wants to control the mechanism. It wants the plan. It demands to know how. But here is the paradox fast manifestors understand, and slow ones cannot swallow. The tighter you grip the how, the more you confess you do not trust the end. And that distrust is itself an assumption of lack. Releasing the how is not laziness. It is the highest form of faith in the assumption. You hold the what and the why, the vivid finished result and the feeling of it, and you let the how go completely. The channels money can reach you through are endless, and most of them are invisible to your planning mind. Stop strangling them with your need to figure it out. Think about how money has actually reached people who manifested it fast. It rarely arrives the way they pictured. An unexpected client, a forgotten debt repaid, an opportunity from a direction they were not even watching. A raise, a gift, a sale, a windfall, an idea that lands at exactly the right moment. If those people had insisted on knowing the how in advance, they would have blocked every one of those doors by fixating on the single path their mind could see. Instead, they held the end and let reality handle delivery. That is the operational difference. The slow try to build the road. The fast assume the destination and find themselves already there, carried by roads they never could have planned. I want you to feel the weight of what is on the table here, because it is easy to hear this as just another technique. It is not a technique. It is a full reversal of how you have related to money your entire life. Everything you were taught, that you must earn it, struggle for it, sacrifice, wait your turn, be realistic, not get your hopes up, all of it was training in the frequency of lack. You have broadcast that frequency so long it feels like your natural voice. Learning the law means learning to change your frequency on purpose, to broadcast wealth even while your eyes report poverty, and to hold that new signal until the world catches up. The world always catches up. The only variable is how long you can hold the signal before you flinch. So here is the discipline for holding it. When the outer world shows you lack, and it will, because it is still echoing your old signal, you refuse to react. Reaction is reassumption. See a low balance, feel fear, and you have just rebroadcast lack and reset your progress. Instead, you look at the contradicting evidence and stay unmoved. You smile inwardly and say, "That is the old echo, not the new order. The new order is on its way, and I do not flinch at the past arriving late." This unshakability in the face of contrary evidence is the hardest and most important skill in the whole practice. It is also the one that produces the fastest results, because it proves your assumption no longer depends on proof. Watch an ordinary person and you see the opposite everywhere. Their inner state is a slave to their outer conditions. A count up, they feel good and assume wealth. A count down, they panic and assume ruin. Their frequency flips all day, dictated entirely by circumstance, so they never build a stable signal long enough to change anything. They are a leaf in the wind of their own results. The person who manifests fast has flipped the direction of cause. Their inner state dictates their outer conditions, not the reverse. They decide the frequency and hold it, no matter what the world is currently showing. That is sovereignty. That is what it means to be the cause instead of the effect. Let me show you how to compress the timeline even further, because everything so far produces results, but there is a way to make it faster still. The speed of manifestation is governed above all by one thing: the completeness of your assumption. A half assumption gives you a half result over a long time. A total assumption gives you a full result fast. And what keeps most people at half is that they are trying to believe rather than assume. Belief argues with evidence, assumption ignores it. Belief says, "I think this might be true," and goes hunting for reasons. Assumption says this is simply so, and needs no reasons at all, the same way you assume the floor will hold when you step out of bed. You do not believe in the floor, you assume it. Bring that same unbothered certainty to your wealth, and the timeline collapses. Here is a way to test whether your assumption is total or partial. Ask yourself, if I truly assumed this money were already mine, how would I feel this second? Anxious about it? No. You are never anxious about what you already have. Would I keep checking? No. You do not check what is settled. Would I feel a need to make it happen? No. In your assumption, it has already happened. So if you catch anxiety, checking, or a need to force it, you have found exactly where the assumption is leaking and you conceal it. Every leak is a spot where the old identity still has a grip. Find it, feel the certainty that plugs it, and your signal strengthens. A sealed assumption manifests with startling speed. Understand, too, that your imagination is not a lesser reality. This is the deepest thing Neville taught, and the hardest for the modern mind to accept. Imagination creates reality, he said, and he meant it literally, not poetically. The inner world is not a daydream that sometimes nudges the outer world. The inner world is the causal world, and the outer world is its shadow, its printout, its delayed report. When you build a scene in imagination and feel it as real, you are not pretending. You are working in the actual workshop where your future is made. The outer events are just the finished product being delivered later. Once you truly grasp that the imaginal act is the real act, you stop dismissing your inner work as daydreaming and start treating it as the most important labor of your day. That changes how you spend your attention. Attention is the flow of your creative power. Wherever it goes with feeling, creation follows. Most people spend their attention entirely on the outer world, reacting to what already exists, which means they spend their creative power maintaining the current reality instead of building a new one. They stare at their problems and wonder why the problems persist. Of course they persist. You are feeding them your attention, which is your life force. Pull your attention off the unwanted condition and pour it into the inner scene of the wanted end. Starve the old reality of attention and feed the new one. Reality follows the food. This is not positive thinking. It is a deliberate reallocation of the only creative resource you have. Now let me be blunt about what to stop doing. Because subtraction matters as much as addition, stop talking about your money problems. Every time you narrate your lack to a friend, complain about bills, describe how tight things are, you perform an assumption of poverty with emotional conviction, and it presses in deeper. Stop consuming content that feeds scarcity and fear about the economy, because you are tuning your nervous system to a frequency of collapse. Stop the anxious account checking. Stop the mental math of despair. Each one is a repeated assumption of lack, and you cannot assume wealth for 10 minutes at night and lack for 16 hours in the day and expect wealth to win. The dominant assumption wins. Make wealth dominant by removing its competition. Then replace those habits with their opposites. Speak of money with ease as something that comes to you readily, even before it does. Not lying, not bragging, just refusing to rehearse lack out loud. When money comes up, feel the calm of someone for whom it is not a problem. In small, ordinary moments, carry yourself the way a person carries themselves when money is not a worry. Not spending recklessly, just inwardly relaxed. These small embodiments through the day are not trivial. They are you living in the end in miniature, hundreds of times a day, each one a vote for the new identity. The new self is built far more in these small moments than in one dramatic nightly session. Consistency of state is what hardens assumption into fact. At some point, maybe soon, the old life will make one last, loud argument. A bill you did not see coming. A setback. A number that drops. Your old identity will pounce on it and say, "See, it is not working. Give up. Be realistic. Go back to struggling." That moment is not failure. It is the old self making its final stand. And Neville warned that the old state often flares hardest right before it dissolves. The way a wave pulls back farthest right before it breaks. React to that moment with fear, and you feed the old self, and it survives. Meet it with calm certainty, look at the contradiction and stay faithful to your assumed end, and the old self loses its last grip, and the new reality moves in. The people who get rich fast are simply the ones who did not flinch at that final flare. That is the whole difference. Not talent, not luck, nerve. There is one more tool, and it works backward through time, which makes it the fastest correction you own. Neville called it revision. Your subconscious does not know the difference between an event that happened and an event you vividly imagine as having happened. It accepts both as real and builds your future on both. So every night before you plant the wealth scene, go back through your day and find any moment where you assumed lack, felt the flinch, reacted to money with fear, and replay it the way you wish it had gone. Rewrite it. See yourself calm where you were anxious, certain where you doubted, easy where you panicked. Do not just think about the better version. Relive it until it feels more real than what actually happened. In doing that, you reach back and pull the assumption of lack out of your record before it can harden into tomorrow. Here is why that is so powerful for speed. All day, without noticing, you feed your subconscious dozens of small assumptions of poverty through your reactions. Revision lets you intercept them and reverse them before sleep locks them in. You are not lying to yourself about the past. The past is already gone. It exists now only as an impression in your mind, and that impression is the only thing that matters, because that impression is what creates. Change it, and you change what it produces. The person who revises the day every night is cleaning the causal record continuously, so nothing old is left broadcasting against them. That is how you keep your signal pure, while living in a world that keeps tempting you back into lack. Pair revision with one more discipline, and you become very hard to stop. Gratitude, but not the soft kind you were sold. Not a list of things you are thankful for that secretly reminds you of everything you lack elsewhere. Real manifesting gratitude is the felt state of already having received. When you give thanks for money as though it has already arrived, with the genuine warmth of someone holding a gift already in hand, you are assuming the wish fulfilled in its purest emotional form. Thankfulness is the emotional proof of possession. You do not thank anyone for what has not come. So to feel real thanks for your wealth now before it appears is one of the most complete assumptions you can make, and the subconscious reads it as done. Slow manifestors beg, fast manifestors thank. The difference in state is the difference in speed. Now put the whole nightly practice together as one clean sequence. You lie down, you revise the day, correcting every moment of assumed lack into calm certainty. Then you enter the single vivid scene of your money already arrived, and you feel it fully, the relief, the ease, the quiet. Then you rest in thankfulness, as though giving thanks for a gift already received, and you let that warm state carry you down into sleep. Revise, assume, thank, sleep. 4 movements, a few minutes every night. That is the entire installation of a wealthy identity, done in the one window each day when your deeper mind is open. Do it faithfully, and the outer world has no choice, over nights, not years, but to start reporting back the wealth you have been quietly assuming. So let me leave you with the core of it stripped down so you carry it out of here tonight. Money is not earned before it is understood. It is understood, and then it arrives. The understanding is an inner posture of complete assumption, held with feeling, sealed against leaks, faithful through the empty interval, unmoved by contradicting evidence. You install it every night in the state akin to sleep, and you protect it every day by refusing to rehearse lack. You live in the end, you release the how, and you let the world catch up to the signal you decided to broadcast. This is the law. It has always been the law. The only reason it has not worked for you yet is that no one taught it to you plainly, and you were too busy trying to earn to stop and learn. Now you have learned it. The order is corrected. Learn, then earn. And the earning, once the learning is real, is not a struggle you perform but a result you allow. So decide tonight before you sleep what is already yours. Feel it as done. Fall asleep inside that feeling. Do it again tomorrow and the night after, with the quiet stubbornness of someone who knows rather than someone who hopes. The world will resist for a moment, and then it bends, because it always bends to a signal that does not waver. The only question left is whether you can hold the signal long enough to see it. You can, because now you understand, and understanding is where wealth begins. Let me warn you about one specific thing that quietly sabotages people because it hides as being smart. The backup plan. You start assuming wealth, you feel it, you begin to trust it, and then a careful voice says, but keep a little fear in reserve just in case it does not work. Stay a little worried so you are not caught off guard. That backup fear feels responsible. It is actually the leak that drains everything. You cannot hold a total assumption while keeping a reserve of doubt on the side for safety, because the reserve of doubt is a second assumption running against the first, and two opposite assumptions cannot both be dominant. One wins. And the one you protect, the one you keep fed just in case, is usually the fear, because fear feels like survival. So you keep the fear alive out of caution, and then wonder why it and not the wealth is what keeps showing up. Drop the backup plan of doubt. Certainty with a safety net of fear is not certainty. It is fear wearing a disguise. I want to leave you with a picture of how the first proof usually arrives, so you recognize it and do not fumble it. It is rarely the whole sum at once. Usually it is a small thing first. A little money from a direction you did not expect. A number that moves the right way. An opportunity that appears out of nowhere. And here is the trap. Your old mind will look at that small first proof and say, that is not enough. That is not what I asked for. This is not working. If you react that way, you reject the very evidence you asked for and reassume lack. The fast people do the opposite. They treat the first small proof as confirmation, as the leading edge of the wave, as the mechanism reporting in. They get quietly excited in the calm way. They say, there it is, right on schedule, and that grateful recognition tells reality to send more. The small proof is a test of whether you can receive. Pass it by welcoming it, and the larger proof follows fast. If this rearranged something in you, tell me in the comments the one scene you are going to fall asleep inside tonight. The exact moment of your money already arrived, and I will read it. Subscribe, because in the next lesson, I break down the one mistake that quietly keeps almost everyone broke, the thing I found in 27 out of 30 people who are all trying to manifest money, and you do not want to miss it. You came here to learn how to manifest money fast. Now you know the secret the whole world got backwards. You do not chase the money. You learn the law, you become the person, and the money learns to find you.